In my last video, I made the DeFi tutorial, and some of my viewers are very exciting for the content. So, in this new video, I'm going to bring you more content for how to do DeFi on the Ethereum network. Welcome back. My name is Chui. This is your trading and investing channel, Blockchain Thunder. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to cover how to do liquidity mining on different DeFi projects. So, let's dive right into it. Before I talk about the DeFi tutorial, I also opened a new channel for the DeFi project, and I also put on the Chinese version of the DeFi tutorial here. So if you prefer to listen to Chinese, you can come to this channel, and I put the link below. Alright, so let's get started. Here are the content of today's tutorial. First of all, let's start with the liquidity pool and LP token. So what is liquidity pool? To understand that, let's go to the Coinbase Pro. Here is Coinbase Pro. So this is Ethereum to USD. Here we have an order book. On top, you have a seller. On the bottom, you have a buyer. And all these things are all called liquidity. Think of it like this. Think of the money is flowing from one side to the other, either from the buyer to the seller or to the seller to the buyer. So it's liquidity flowing to different sides. And that is what we call liquidity. But what is liquidity pool? Now let's go to Uniswap. In Uniswap, we have an interface called Uniswap pools. Here, you can add liquidity to different pools. For example, I can add liquidity to Ethereum and BTC pool. So, WBTC is the Bitcoin on the Ethereum network. So, if you put it on top, you can put the Ethereum. On the bottom, you have a WBTC. And then if you have enough of these two coins, you can click here and add the liquidity to this liquidity pool. So what is liquidity pool? Basically, you as a seller, you have to have a buyer on the other side and vice versa. So Uniswap is a decentralized exchange. Therefore, anybody can come on here to sell your coins, to swap your coin from one coin to another. But you have to have enough liquidity here before you can do the swapping. And this is why we call it the liquidity pool. So every time you have to put a pair of these two coins on to some of the pools on Uniswap. Once you add these two coins to the pool, you own part of this pool. So every time somebody come in here and swap from Ethereum to WBTC or vice versa, they have to give you some fee for the exchange. And as an owner of this pool, you will get partial of this fee. And this fee accumulates to a long run in the form of Ethereum and WBTC in the pool as your portion of the fee. And in the future, when you want to remove these two coins from the liquidity pool, you will also at the same time withdraw those fees along with your original portion of the two coins. So this is basically what is liquidity pool. Now, what is good thing about liquidity pool? The first good thing about liquidity pool is, of course, I just told you, you will earn fees from the other people's exchange. The second best thing is that we can use it to do DeFi. And before I talk about how do we use liquidity pool to do DeFi, let's talk about LP token. So when you add say WBTC and Ether to a liquidity pool. Uniswap will give you a token which is called the LP token for that pool, and the amount of the LP token will be proportional to the amount that you put in the pool compared to the total value of that pool. So this LP token will be deposited directly into your wallet. Now, a lot of the DeFi project will accept this LP token for your staking. And if you stake the LP token onto a DeFi project, and those DeFi projects usually reward you with their own cryptocurrency as interest. And I usually just sell those cryptocurrency to either BTC or Ether. So this process is what we call liquidity mining. Now, before I show you how to use the LP token to do DeFi, we have to talk about impermanent loss. So what is impermanent loss? For example, if you deposit 2 coins, for example, let's say USDT and Ether, you add this pool. Now, for example, if the price of Ether collapsed like 90%, and because this coin and this coin, their value is 1 to 1. So if the price of this one collapses 90%, and this one, value of this one will also collapse with it. So basically, if you see the price of this one collapse 90%, you will also see the number of the USDT will also decrease significantly. So that's what we call impermanent loss. So why do we call it impermanent? The reason for that is that because you're still in the pool, so you still earn the fees for other people's exchange. Therefore, in the long run, in theory, the fees you earn will eventually make up the loss. That's why we call it impermanent loss. So when we do DeFi, the first important thing is that we have to minimize the impermanent loss. Because if one of these coins collapses 90%, it might take 100 years for your loss to come back by collecting fees. So to you, that is probably means permanent instead of impermanent, because 100 years is kind of permanent for a lot of people, right? Therefore, we have to minimize the impermanent loss when we do DeFi. To do that, we have to know what kind of pools is safe and what kind of pools are not. So let's take a look at some of the pools. So I prepared some of these pools. So the first kind of pool is single asset pool. It's basically not a pool, but just deposit a single asset to the DeFi project. So for example, some of the DeFi project accept deposit from Bitcoin, a single asset, just Bitcoin. Some of the DeFi project accept just Ether, and some of it just stable coins. These are all single assets. Their impermanent loss is 0. That's because even the value of Bitcoin is fluctuating, but if you deposit 1 Bitcoin in the DeFi project, a couple months later, it will still be 1 Bitcoin, even if the value of it is decreasing, even if the price of Bitcoin is decreasing, but you still have 1 Bitcoin, right? So relative to Bitcoin, your impermanent loss is 0. Similarly for Ether and for stablecoin, this kind of single asset pools are all impermanent loss are all 0. So I give it a score of 10. Now, for pair of pools, you have to put 2 different kind of coins into a pool. For this kind of pools, Some DeFi project offers this kind of a stable coins pool. So on the left side you have USDT, on the right side you have USDC. There are some people, they have this need to exchange from USDT to USDC or vice versa. Some people have the need to change from WBTC to RMBTC. So because they're basically both Bitcoin, or they basically both are stablecoin, therefore your impermanent loss is basically very small. So this is why this kind of pools is also pretty good. I give it a score of 9. Now the next one is Bitcoin and Ether. This one has a relatively low score compared to the first two. That's because the price of Ether compared to Bitcoin is relatively large. But compared to the next several ones, the price of Ether compared to Bitcoin is relatively stable, but not as stable as this one, but it's relatively stable, especially this year. Ether has been pretty strong compared to Bitcoin. So I give it a score of 8. The next one is this one, Ether and then stablecoin. This one is not as good as this one. That's because the value of USDT is not changing, right? Because it's stablecoin. But the value of this one is changing all the time. So if in Uniswap you have 1-to-1 ratio, so the value of this one should be equal to this one. So when the price of Ether is increasing significantly, say it increased 10 times, and then you will find that your USDT is also increasing. But you will also find that your number of Ether is decreasing. That's because when the price of Ether is going up, that's because people are buying it, right? So your Ether is becoming USDT. That's why the number of Ether is decreasing. So in the long run, if the price of Ether went up like 10 times, then you only have 10% of Ether left at the end. So it's not very good as this two, but the Ether price has been relatively stable, but recently it has been going up pretty fast. This is why I didn't put any of my Ether into this kind of pools. When the Ether price is relatively stable, this pool is pretty ideal. So the next one is mid-cap coins on one side, and on the other side is Ether. This kind of a pool is relatively good compared to the last one, the shitcoin one, because the possibility for this mid-cap coin in the bull market to run is still pretty possible, and it's also possible that they will also run with Ether. So Ether price is going up and the mid-cap coin is also going up. So it's possible that in the bull market this kind of a pair is also okay. And the ones I like is like this one, YFI, a mid-cap coin, or Uni vs W Ether. This kind of a mid-cap coin and W Ether pair is also pretty good. Now the last one is shitcoin vs Ether, or other shitcoin vs Ether. This is probably something like just shitcoin. W Ether is okay. So what is shitcoin? Basically a new coin. So say if a DeFi project come out, a new DeFi project come out, they often offer their own cryptocurrency, a new cryptocurrency as interest, and give it to you. They also created their own cryptocurrency vs Ether pool. So then you can join this kind of pool. But because this coin is pretty new, normally a new coin comes out, the first thing will happen is the price of that coin will plunge like 90% or 95%. It's pretty terrible. So if you use money to buy that coin and then you also put in Ether, if this shitcoin collapses 90% of value, it will also take down your Ether. So this is why this pair is the worst one. What I recommend is do not go into this kind of pool. But there are some exceptions, and usually this kind of pool will offer you really high annual percentage yield. It could normally have a APY of 1000% to 3000%. That is really high API. In some very special situation, you can come into this kind of pool, and I will talk about this technique in the future videos. But here I will just tell you, for the new DeFier, do not come into this coin if you don't know what you are doing. Now, to do DeFi, one very important ability is to find which one of these pools are safe. So in my opinion, the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one, these are all pretty safe. Starting from this one is starting to getting dangerous, because even for mid-cap coin, it's still possible for it to plunge 90%. So keep that in mind. Alright, so after talk about this, let's take a look at the non-50-50 balancer pools. So in Uniswap, we often have actually all the liquidity pool on Uniswap is 50-50. So 1-to-1 value liquidity pools on Uniswap. But there is a DeFi project called Balancer, where you can put in imbalance of two coins. For example, you can put in 90% of Ether and only put in 10% of Bitcoin. I really like this kind of a liquidity pool. That's because if you're very bullish for Ether compared to WBTC, if the price of Ether went up 90%, you will still have say if you put in 10 Ether and the Ether price went up 90%, went up like 10 times. At the end, you will still have 9 Ether in the pool. So the price change of Ether is not significant as the 50-to-50 liquidity pools. So, but the impact for WBTC will be much larger in this kind of pool. But usually we don't care about this one. The only one we care about is the one you put in the large percentage Ether in this case. So I really like this kind of idea that Balancer has offered us. And also they have somebody put in this prediction exchange / Balancer. This website is pretty good. So let me show you what I mean. If you show the returns for different kind of Balancer pools, so if you come into this, and if you have a WBTC, say WBTC. Now, if you show all the Balancer pools with WBTC in, now the next step for you to add in one of these pools is you have to select the correct one that is more suitable for you and maximize your reward. For example, I don't recommend you going into these really large liquidities. That means they have a total value of a lot of money, you know. there is a lot of Bitcoin, a lot of Ether in this pool already. So if you put in $10,000, your percentage of this pool is really low, right? So I also don't recommend you to go into a really small pool like this one. This is a pretty small pools. If you put into this one, your percentage of this pool is high, but it's really hard to trust them because there's not enough people in there. So my recommendation is going into like mid-cap pools, like $1 million probably too large. I will recommend you going into this, like this one looks pretty good. Only have $161,000 total value in this pool. So if you put in $10,000 here, your percentage would be like a 4 or 5%. That is pretty high in my opinion. So with this high percentage of owner of this pool, basically you will earn the interest of people's exchange. In the meantime, Balancer will give you BAL, their native token BAL, Balancer coin, as your interest each week. So you have two interest. One is the BAL, the other one is the people exchange coins in this pool. So you have two kind of interest, which is really good. And here is your return percentage, but it's actually not accurate. According to my calculation, it's only like a 50% of this one. So the return of this one is actually like a close to 12%. So I don't know how they calculate it. It's let me see, it's a ROL. So I don't know how do they calculate it, but it's basically just half. Any percentage yield is just half. So keep that in mind. The other thing is this one, this column, total factor. So total factor is basically, it says if your total factor is 1, that means you are earning a normal 100% of Balancer each week. But if you only have a 0.2, that means you only earn 20% of the normal amount of Balancer. This kind of pool is not very good. That's because this pool has basically this pair is all Bitcoin. So the impermanent loss is pretty small. Therefore, the risk of this pool for impermanent loss is really low. And therefore, your reward is also low, only like about 2%. So I recommend going into something like 100%. This will be pretty good. Some pools like this one offers 200%. That's because one of its coins, for example, a Balancer coins here, it's possible that Balancer coin, the price of Balancer coin can collapse like 90%. So it will also drag down your WBTC. Therefore, your risk is pretty high in this pool. But of course, your reward will also high. But I don't recommend going into this kind of pool because the Balancer is not very good. Unless there is one exception that you didn't buy the Balancer. You earn your Balancer from this kind of pool. And then you put your Balancer into this high reward pool. And that would be a good strategy, which is what I'm doing right now. Right now, I earned my Balancer from this kind of pool, which is Bitcoin and Ether. And then I earn my Balancer each week. And then I use 50% of the Balancer, convert it into Ether. And then I put into a pool called Ether and Balancer pool. So in that pool, we have Ether and Balancer. So I've put 50% into Ether and 50% into the other half. So I'm earning high interest from that pool. So that's a very good strategy too. Alright, so if say right now you want to add into this pool, you can click this, and then it will bring you to the pool management. Now it will show the basic information of this pool, how many liquidity is in there and what's the volume, and then 50-50 Bitcoin and Ether, and the pool balance. Now if you want to add your balance, add liquidity to this pool, you click this add liquidity, and then you have to agree balancer to use your Bitcoin and Ether. You have to agree both, I think. So, and then say if you want to put one Ether in there, then you automatically, your wallet should have this amount of Bitcoin in your wallet. But there's another button here, single asset. You can also deposit single asset in there. For example, if you have one Bitcoin, you can put one Bitcoin here, and then balancer will automatically convert 50% of your balance of your Bitcoin into Ether and then deposit in this pool. This is convenient because sometimes, for example, if you just transfer 10 Ether from your Coinbase account and you don't want to go into the trouble to exchange Ether into Bitcoin first and then deposit, using this single asset, you can just put in the 10 Ether right here, and then balancer will do the rest for you. So it's pretty convenient and I like it. And then you just click, there will be like a add liquidity here after you agree balancer to use your Bitcoin and Ether. And then this is basically the process of adding liquidity to balancer pools. So basically that is how you do liquidity mining on the balancer. Once again, I add into two different pools. One is the first one is like about, I think 50-50 BTC and Ether. That's my first pool that I add in, and I earn balancer each week, and then I put 50%, actually 60% of balancer into this pool, and other 40% of balancer converted into Ether, and I add into this pool and earn high interest from this pool. So that is my strategy for the balancer pool. And I really like the balancer coin because balancer is basically the first one, maybe the first one, to come up with this kind of imbalance pool in the DeFi world. So I think that this BAL coin will have a really good chance to go into at least the first 30 of the first 30 of the cryptocurrency. So I think, yeah, it will have a bright future. So all right, the next one I want to introduce is the YieldX. The reason I want to introduce it is because I used it before and I really like it. Okay, so here is the yield farming website, and this one is not their main web link, but it's a backup link because recently they have some DDoS attack on their main site, so they're using this as their link right now. So before they do a restructure, right now they're doing some restructure, so their USDT and Ether annual percentage yield is just about 2%, so it's pretty low. So before that it was like about at least 70% annual percentage yield, so it was pretty good time before. So at that time I earned a lot of YieldX, and then I put 50% of my YieldX into Ether and the other 50% put into this pool. So I still have some position in this pool and it's mining every day. And if you click on it, you have to first approve it first. You have to do this approving, and then you can stake your LP token. And of course, The LP token itself, if you click here, if you don't have your LP token, you click here, buy LP, and then it will put you onto Uniswap. So that is one of the features of a lot of DeFi project. They all put their pools on Uniswap instead of their own liquidity pools. They put you onto Uniswap. This is why Uniswap is really important. So if you put it here, and then you put your YieldX here, and then put your Ether here, and you add the liquidity, and then you have your LP token, and then you come back here, and then this will show you the amount of your LP token you have, and you just put in this number, the same number as this one here, and then you click the stake. After stake is successful, you will see from this tab, the claim, you will starting earning YieldX as soon as you stake your LP token. And I think this number updates every 10 seconds. It's not like Balancer. Balancer give your reward every week, but this number is increasing every 10 seconds, so it looks pretty nice, right? So if you want to withdraw your reward, you can withdraw from here. And actually, it's withdraw the interest from here. Click this claim. This withdraw is to withdraw your LP token. So you can put in your number of LP token you want to withdraw, and then you withdraw it from here. So one thing I want to stress is that right now this YieldX and Ether pool offers APY of 300%. But if you remember my previous slide, it falls into the shitcoin category with the WEther, right? If I take a look at it, this is shitcoin basically, because it's pretty new. And then this one is Ether. So basically, I don't recommend the new DeFiers go into this pool, because you don't know what you're doing. The reason I'm in this pool is because there are some very important techniques to enter this pool. The first one, I can show you the first one. I will show you the next one in the next video. But the first very important thing is you don't spend money to buy the shitcoin. Instead, you use your money like USDT and Ether to get the yield farming the YieldX. Basically, use your original money to get your shitcoin, and then you put the shitcoin into a really high risk pool to earn the even higher interest, and that would be a much better strategy comparing to use your own money to buy the shitcoin and put in this pool. That is really bad. Don't do it, right? Instead, you mine it first and then you put into this pool. That would be much better. Alright, so in this video we cover a lot of things. We cover what is liquidity pool and LP token, and what is impermanent loss. And I also introduce what is 50-50 liquidity pool and not balanced liquidity pools in Balancer, and how do we do the LP token staking on Balancer to do liquidity mining, and then also introduce this kind of high reward but pretty risky pools. So I probably will talk about YFI in the next video, because YFI has pretty good status in the yield farming world. So I'll talk about it in the next video, and I'll also give you some tip for joining those really high risk but also really high reward, like 3000% of interest pools. So get exciting. And yeah, that's it for this video. And if you like my content, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe. I hope you guys have wonderful New Year. Happy New Year. Have a wonderful times with your family, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.